All right, so today, after much deliberation, we're going to take a look at this used Rekluse CX clutch package for the KTM that I bought yesterday from a guy. This is the Rekluse CX Torque Drive Core EXP, the RMS 79 3192 Radius CX clutch. It fits a bunch of different stuff. Gas 350s, Huskies, and of course the KTMs. Luckily, this thing came with all the paperwork. Everything's here. This is the slave cylinder, spare parts, all the instructions on how to do it, and additionally all the clutch. Now we want to check this thing out pretty good prior to putting it in the bike. Honestly, I've already had it open. I had it apart, kind of looked at it, and I see some things that I want to do. Take it out of the package here. Pressure plate right here, the EXP plate, the inner basket with all the plates, the frictions and the steel dry plates. First thing I noticed when I took it apart to look at everything is the steel dry plates, they have a little bit of heat in them. So what we're going to do, we're going to clean this thing up, and we're going to take these steel dry plates and put them into the bead blaster and recondition them. Make sure we're up to snuff there. Now, I took measurements of the clutch pack with digital calipers to make sure these plates were still good, and they are. The specifications are a minimum of 20 millimeters and a maximum of 21.1 millimeters, and what I had here was 20.6. So there's a little bit of potential wear in there. We're about halfway, a little less than halfway through the wear design on these frictions, so we're good. But the thing does look like it's been a little hot, so we're going to take these steels and we're going to clean them up, and we're going to like I say, put them into bead blaster and blast them fresh. Now the EXP disc, took it apart. You push down and turn a quarter turn. Had silver springs on one side and black springs on the other. I have to check the chart, but I think that's probably a medium spring setting for this. Now, when I looked at this thing earlier, you know, there's obviously, I don't know if the camera picks it up very well or not, but you can see there's some wear. This clutch supposedly has 60 some odd hours on it, and it had a complete rebuild about 10 hours ago. There's some ridges that have built up on some of these ramps here, and let's see if we can see it through here. Right there, you can see, I don't know if the camera's picking that up very well, but there's a little bit of a ridge where either the metal has been pushed or it's just a little bit of wear. But we can take a file, just clean it up a little bit. You can see right there where it now. This is real hard aluminum. Just want to get it flattened back out a little bit. Just kind of a light resurfacing. And we'll do all these ramps, make sure everything's good there. The Teflon pads have been replaced as well. And when I took this thing apart this morning, several of the pads literally fell out. I have the tool here that I made for the Suzuki Rekluse in the Sherco. You just put it on there and just give it a little squeeze, and it puts those Teflons right where they need to be. We want to make sure that they're in there good and they aren't going to come loose again. They undoubtedly weren't pressed in well. Whoever did this rebuild. Yeah, the Rekluse videos show using a screwdriver to do this, but I found that to be a little tedious first time I did it. So I had these old $5 needle nose channel locks, and I ground the area there to match the profile of the ramps. Oh, I see there's a Teflon on the ground. So one has fallen out. Where did it go from? Right there. I have some more Teflons. I'll just replace this one because it's obviously not pressing in well. But we'll clean all these ramps up. Doesn't take much. Just a little truing with the file. Give it an inspection under the magnifier. That one right there could use a little more. As can that one. Yeah, those are all good. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, one side of the EXP wasn't nearly as worn as the other for some reason. I did take a width thickness measurement of the EXP disc, and it's fine. It was right at 11 millimeters across the pads, and that's where it's supposed to be. All right, we'll separate these steels and fibers. Won't really matter about any pattern because the thing is gonna be refaced, resurfaced basically in the bead blaster, and the clutch has to be rebroken in, reseated anyway, so having a matched seat at this point won't really matter. Clean up a little faster just using your fingers with the rubber gloves on. Be done with it. One of these is a special plate, and I think it must be this one. It'll have a marking on it. Yeah, my parts washer pump is a little tired. You'd be tired too if you've been sitting in a solvent tank for 30 years. It still works. It won't knock paint off with the pressure, but it still works. Been many a part washed in this old parts washer over time. Lots of engines built. All right, we'll take paper towel and dry these off. We don't want moisture in the bead blaster, so we want to try to dry this up a little bit. Put these things in the bead blaster with all this on them, and they'll just soak up all the glass beads. They won't flow nicely. All right, we'll take these over to the main shop over there. We're in the downstairs shop right here, the top secret location, and we'll bead blast these things, and we'll show a little bit of that, and then we'll be right back.
89 feet high and 60 feet wide.
Okay. All right, got the bead blaster going here. We'll take all these plates and drop them in. Latcher. And we'll take each individual plate. Give them a nice little blast. All right, and we'll continue that for all the discs until they're all resurfaced and ready to be cleaned up and put back in the clutch. This is just a quick comparison. The one on the left has been through one treatment in the bead blaster. You can see it's a lot more satiny finish. All the burning is gone compared to the one on the right here. You can see right in this area here where it's been hot. But that's what we're doing in the bead blaster. We're taking this and resurfacing it to this. All right, so we got all the parts cleaned up here. All the steel plates are glass beaded. Got resurfaced. that does more than just actually cleaning the things up. Microscopically, it actually will put a little bit of a raise to the clutch, giving a little bit better grip. They'll glaze up over time with the friction plates and the oil and the heat. So you want to take that off, make sure it works good. We're going to work on these wedges here that we keep losing the Teflons. Just sitting here on the bench, a couple of them fell back out. So what we're going to do is clean this up a little bit. And pop a new one in. Put the Teflon in there. Take our little tool. Pop it in there, and hopefully she'll stay now. I think I'll actually pop one on this side here too, just to make them even. Just take a pick or something, and you pick an old one out, just like this. Pull it out. Hit it with the carb cleaner to clean it up a little. You can see they're kind of cantankerous to get in there just right, and that's probably what happened when this thing got redone. There we go. Do the same thing with this one. That one was actually in there pretty good. it's put back together. Now we'll reassemble the EXP. I'm going to leave the spring set up as it is. It has the dark springs and the light springs. According to the paperwork, that is a low stall speed setting. We're going to leave it at that for testing purposes, see how it works. We'll tune the clutch after we get everything back together. We're going to have to pull this thing back out, change the stall speed, but apparently this is the recommended setting. A little trouble getting this one in. There we go. Alright, they're all in there. Everything seems to move smoothly. So the EXP should function properly, giving us good Rekluse clutch slipping action. Alright, next thing we're going to do is get the old clutch out of the bike and start stacking the new Rekluse in there. We got to put the new center basket and stack all the plates in properly, and then we'll still have to replace the KTM slave cylinder with the Rekluse slave cylinder and get it bled out, and then we can test this thing, see how she works. All right, we're going to pull all the clutch fluid out of the hydraulic system prior to removing the OEM slave cylinder and installing the Rekluse slave cylinder. And the reason we're doing that is there's a lot of heat gets in these systems, and the fluid gets old and boils out. Moisture gets in there, all sorts of things happen. But I'm going to use the Motul RBF 600, the same thing I put in the rear brakes, to put this thing back together. We're going to use the pneumatic brake bleeder. Good old Harbor Freight. Tool trucks sell them. Harbor Freight's got them. It works just fine. It's not a real complicated piece of equipment. But all we have to do is attach that there. It's hooked up to an air line, so it's going to break the bleeder open and it's sucking out the fluid. in addition to sucking out the fluid, we need to clean the system. That's best done with just plain old isopropyl alcohol. Oops, missed that a little bit. I'm working the clutch lever a little bit to clean all the fluid out of the master cylinder. Keeping it topped off as I go to let the pneumatic bleeder pull everything through. We're going to let that continue to draw on it till it dries everything out inside. We don't want any moisture in there. So this will just, it'll pull on that and dry out the lines, making sure everything's nice and clean. This is going to take a few minutes, so do some creative editing, and once this is done, it takes a few minutes to dry everything out. All right, I think we've got her pulled out pretty good. Let's pull that off. Close the bleeder valve, and let's just dry that out for a second. Turn that noise off. All right, now we're going to remove the stock slave cylinder here. Take your 8mm. Got to pull the chain guard out. This bolt is located inside the air box on the KTM. It's 10 millimeter head. Take that off and set it aside. Now I'm going to break. Strange, this is an 11mm, kind of different. I'm used to Japanese stuff. I'm going to break that loose. And Rekluse instructions say to use the crush washers that came with Rekluse. They're thinner washers for whatever reason. I'm going to move this sensor wire out of the way a little bit. That's the gear position indicator wire. And we got a couple of 8mm to come off here. These are actually 6mm bolts, but they have 8mm heads, so I'm calling them 8mm for the purposes of this video. And it looks like the sprocket's got to come off, or at very least the chain. Nope, you can wiggle it out. Never mind. Great. All right, nothing from this assembly will be reused with a Rekluse. This is all OEM stuff, and it won't go back. Now, the Rekluse cylinder, slave cylinder, has to be bled. And that's done by screwing the adjustment screw out till you see the O-ring. Press the piston in all the way. Fill it with fluid. Turn it counterclockwise all the way, which pushes the piston out, and you'll see that that actually lowers the fluid level. Top it back off. Turn the adjuster counterclockwise all the way till you see the O-ring again, keeping the reservoir, the cylinder topped off, and push the piston back in. You'll see air coming out. Do it slowly because it will make a mess. And you just repeat this several times until you no longer see air coming out. This is important because with the design of the cylinder and the bleeder, you don't have efficient bleeding like you do on a brake caliper. The bleeder design basically bleeds the master cylinder and the line more so than this slave cylinder. So you need to manually do this here a couple of times. I'm not getting any air at all. This thing, since it was previously installed, it was somewhat bled as it was. But we're going to go through the motions, as they say. To make sure that everything's working like it's supposed to. Yeah, I got no more air. Got a lot of fluid, making a lot of mess, but no air. Okay, now we can take the OE banjo and the Rekluse supplied crush washers. Put that back together. install a OE gasket. It's same gasket, but it's you don't use the diaphragm cover. Wiggle this thing back in there. And we can put the upper chain guide back in. Yeah, torque that to 2 vanes. Some of you may get that joke, others not so much. And we can put the airbox cover back in. We're good to go there. All right, next step we're going to do is bleed the slave cylinder, master cylinder. I believe I'm going to lower the lift back down so it makes it a little easier to do. All right, we got the lift lowered back down. Take our brake fluid, our RBF Motul brake fluid. Fill up the master cylinder reservoir. Going to reattach our pneumatic bleeder. Before we do that, let's snug up this banjo here, because it won't bleed without that. Alright, banjo's snugged up. Get our 7mm wrench and activate the bleeder. Pop it open. I was keeping an eye on the master cylinder up here. We don't want it to get low. And we're getting a lever. I'm watching for air bubbles in the vacuum line while I'm squeezing. I don't see any more air bubbles. So at this point I'm going to close that off, kill the pneumatic. And she's bled. It's all good. Take a little carb cleaner, spray all this brake fluid off right there, and replace the bleeder cap. Notice I've still left the Rekluse adjuster all the way out. That's per their instructions. We still have to do all our final adjustments once we get all the clutch and everything in. All right, now we're going to remove the stock clutch and install the Rekluse kit. Take our spring, the brake pedal loose. I've got the bike leaned over on the lift so none of the oil runs out. Now we'll remove the pressure plate. Pull the factory throw out of off there because we don't want that in the way. This won't be reused, however the spring seat here will be put back in on the Rekluse replacement pressure plate. Now we have to take the lock tabs Now we'll use a 27mm socket on an air wrench, pop this loose. That apparently has some Loctite on it. From some previous disassembly. I took the nut off before I pull the plates out because it's easier to hold friction on there, because this will spin. This attached to the transmission. Now I should be able to pull the entire assembly out. Just like that. We need to pull these drive pins because we will be reusing the OEM drive pins. You don't want to drop one of these in the engine because trust me, it's a pain to fish out. Been there, done that. The washer that fell off is the thrust washer that goes right here. We want to make sure that that goes back on there. We don't need any of this OEM clutch stuff. This was a relatively fresh clutch that I just put in there. We don't need any of this stuff. All right, the Rekluse inner hub will go on there. We got to put this thrust washer back in. It has a round side and a flat side. I personally put the flat side out. Put the Rekluse inner basket in there, and we will start putting plates in. These Rekluse plates have what they call a shark fin, and that faces forward. In this particular case, it looks like the flat side will be going to the back. Align that where a drive pin will go. And you carefully put your drive pins back in. Seat them into the basket. And continue alternating fibers and steels. You want to make sure that the fibers go into the proper notches. There's a shallow notch and a deep notch, and you definitely want it to go into the deep notch. Since this was a used clutch, the plates are already pretty well soaked in oil anyway. If this was a new clutch, you'd want to soak these fibers in oil prior to assembly. As you can see, they're plenty wet. And the last plate that goes in is the EXP disc. It goes just like that. And that has it all together. Then when we're ready to complete this thing, the pressure plate goes in here, and these notches line up with these notches here to create a solid gap. For now, I'm going to leave this out for a minute. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite back on this thing since it had Loctite on it. I haven't read the KTM manual. That may be something that they call for. So let me grab the Loctite and I'll be right back. All right, we're going to put a little Loctite on the threads. And we need the new Rekluse lock tab. Put that in there, and we'll run the nut down. I don't put stuff back on as a rule with power tools. Take it apart's fine. Putting it back together, you need a little bit of feel. Plus, in this particular instance, we got to get a torque spec on it, and it's 50 foot-pounds. Put it in gear, and it helps hold it. All right, we got everything torqued back down. I'm going to take some channel locks, and actually I'm going to take a screwdriver and bend it out first. Then we'll squeeze this lock tab up against the nut, keep it from turning. Now we'll replace the pusher, throw-out pusher, and we'll put the EXP disc in. And on this Rekluse pressure plate, we need to take a little bit of oil, put on here per their instructions. Put this plate back in. Fits in the notches right there, and those notches also will line up just like that. Now we need to take the spring seat out, and just pops right out. It has a little bevel to it. I'll put that right there. We'll need to put the bevel washer back on. You see it has a bevel. That's why it's called a bevel washer, I guess. But it goes on like that with the concave down. And this DDS retainer has 3 different positions, and it's based on the measurements of the clutch pack, and I've already done that. We're in the number 1 position. They're marked on the outside. A little hard to see on some of them, but you'll just want to put that number 1 position right there. And Rekluse sends some new little Torx head screws to go in here. I'm guessing that has to do with clearance. Just running these down finger tight for now. Once we get them all in, we'll torque them to 55 inch-pounds. Per the Rekluse instruction manual. Alright, got the inch-pound torque wrench here. It's already preset to 55 inch-pounds. We're going to do this in a star pattern. Tighten them up a little as we go. Try to bring them all down fairly evenly so we don't put any stress on anything that we shouldn't. Alright, they're all snugged down, bottomed out, and now we'll put the torque spec to them. Alright, that should have it torqued. Now I'm going to pull the clutch lever a couple of times and observe the clutch pack, make sure everything's moving the way it's supposed to. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but the pressure plate's moving out like it's supposed to. So that's good. All right, everything is torqued down. We're all good to go there. I have a new O-ring gasket for the clutch cover that was on. We already had a Rekluse cover on here, so we're not going to put the one that came with the kit on it. But I'm gonna fish that O-ring out and replace it with a new one, because I did have a little bit of a leak and I had it sealed up with some Yama Bond to keep it from leaking for the last race. All right, so that took a little bit of work to get it right. Apparently, if you recall earlier in the video, I said the springs that were in the EXP disc, there was 3 silver and 3 black springs. If I had been intelligent enough to read through the whole manual, I would have seen that that was incorrect for this particular bike. Standard is a little bit stronger. Those 3 steel springs are very, very weak. I actually went back and put 3 red springs and 3 silver springs in it. That is a medium stall speed. Got out there and got everything done. When I first took this thing out with the black and silver springs, it wouldn't totally, it wouldn't freewheel. It had a tremendous amount of creep, so I knew something was wrong. I would adjust it, never could get it right. So I brought it back in here, I tore it back down, saw what the problem was once I read the manual, and I adjusted it for a little bit more. This bike idles at approximately 2100 RPM per the manual, and like I said, apparently the bike that it was in didn't idle that high, and it didn't need the heavier springs to keep the EXP disc disengaged. But with the 3 red springs and the 3 silver springs, that, like I said, that's a medium high stall speed setting for the Rekluse manual over there, and it works fine now. Ran through the entire break-in process. I got it adjusted. I actually had to back the adjuster screw out about 4 clicks once enough heat got in the clutch plates to expand everything properly, so I could get the free play gain set per spec, which is 1/8 to 1/4 millimeter. But it works really great. Be looking forward to riding the bike in the woods in a real race situation coming up real soon, and we'll see how it did. Hope this video helps somebody out there. Probably would have helped me if I'd have seen one earlier. But anyway, nevertheless, we have the Rekluse in the bike. Hopefully that'll give us a little bit more of an edge out there in the trail. We won't be stalling the engine quite as badly, hopefully not at all. That combined with the Vortex ECU that we've already been running. And looking forward to a good ride coming up here in a couple of days. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you'd like to see coming up in the future, and we'll get right back with you. Thanks.